I will never sign another bill like this again. I'm not going to do it again. Nobody read it. It's only hours old. I was thinking about doing the veto, but because of the incredible gains that we've been able to make for the military, that overrode any of our thinking. I'm calling on Congress to give me a line item veto for all government spending bills. We have to get rid of the filibuster rule and go to 51 votes in the Senate.
Well, President Trump reluctantly signing that $1.3 trillion budget bill, and that was after kind of a head fake on Twitter today with a veto threat saying, I am considering a veto of the omnibus spending bill based on the fact that the 800,000 plus DACA recipients have been totally abandoned by the Democrats, not even mentioned in bill, and the border wall, which is desperately needed for our national defense, is not fully funded. Now, there are numerous criticisms of this bill. The immigration part is part of it, but Ann Coulter from the conservative side threatened veto not over on the wall, but over the Dreamers. Can I sign up with Mueller? Continuing, congratulations, President Schumer. And finishing up, I will never sign another bill like this again. Yeah, because you'll be impeached. And Coulter has a unique way of expressing conservative angst about the president's action, but there was some pushback today about the signing of this bill. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times. Leslie Marshall, syndicated talk radio host, and Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and publisher. You know, Charlie, that tweet really sent people scrambling. Most of Congress had gone home. You saw
Trump tweet.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about the Ann Coulter tweet too, but we'll talk about that. But the original Trump tweet about well, there could be a veto.
Well, and you got a sense from that press conference that he actually had to be kind of convinced by the White House to go ahead and sign it and not actually veto it. He really did seem to be torn about it. But I think come November, if we're looking at a complete wipeout of Republican seats, I think we can look back to this week and see the beginning of that dissatisfaction with voters. I don't know what reason Republican voters have to vote for Republicans at this point.
Well, the tax law, they will say, but
that's fine. But when you're talking about this kind of spending, when you have a Republican in the White House, you have Republicans in both chambers of Congress, and obviously there are all kinds of explanations about they don't have a filibuster-proof, majority and things like that. But seriously, it's really hard to understand how we do just galloping into the spending when Republicans are now in control, and Republicans are supposed to be the party of constraint. But I do think that the president put probably the best spin, as usual, of any Republican on it by saying, look, Democrats are holding the military hostage. I caved because of that. That's a pretty good line, but I don't know if it's one that Republicans on the Hill will be able to make.
And Leslie, he said he was going to be a press conference. He took like 2 questions, so it really wasn't a press conference. But everybody covered it, and it took the moment, and it took the news for the day. Did he get it both ways? Did he get to show his anger about it and sign it?
I think right now, every time the president speaks, because, you know, he said, I'm vetoing this, and then he signs it. I'm having a press conference, only taking 2 questions. It's really hard for any of us, I think, regardless if we're left or right, to believe anything he says. So honestly, I don't think he gets, you know, points for this. I do want to say you made me tingle just a little bit as a Democrat talking about why nobody would vote for a Republican. I just had to throw that out there. Yes, I had a moment there. But I do think as a Democrat, it's absolutely laughable that he thinks the Hispanic community and the American people are going to buy that Democrats are throwing, you know, DACA under the bus. They don't care when the House and the Senate are a majority Republican, and a majority of Republicans are what wrote these thousands of pages that nobody seems to know what's.
All right, but here, let's play the president and some Democrats and Republicans about DACA.
We wanted to include DACA in this bill. The Democrats would not do it.
This is classic Trump. He says one thing and then does something completely different.
We gave him a deal a month ago. We gave him every penny he asked for over 10 years and fixed the Dreamer problem, and he said no.
The Democrats leverage some power out of that narrow margin that we have, and why they didn't use that power to get DACA out, I'll never understand.
I mean, Republicans, Tom, say they just want to use this as a election issue. There was a 3-year deal that was floating up there on Capitol Hill, but it never came to fruition.
Yeah. No, look, I think Trump actually did play Democrats last time around on the government shutdown this issue very well, saying Democrats were trying to hold the military hostage, as Charlie said. This time, though, they got the military spending. And ironically, I mean, Trump wasn't upset about the spending. He didn't even mention it. That's why the tweet was so funny. He said, you know, there was... people didn't believe it because he said, the reason I might veto this is because DACA is not in the bill. That's not...
Well, that's what set Ann Coulter off.
Exactly. And that was why it was so incredible, and nobody really believed that he was going to pull the trigger and veto this thing. But now Republicans have their spending, and DACA is going to have to be done as a side issue, as a separate bill. But I don't think there's any indication from anyone on Capitol Hill that that's going to be something that gets done this year.
But let's be real here. I mean, this is really the last big bill we're going to see out of Congress before the midterms, right?
That's right. I mean, this is essentially it. There's not much else that can or will get done. And Republicans, to Charlie's point, they're hanging their hat on the tax bill. And that's not a certain thing that's going to be enough to get them over the finish line in November and hold on to the majorities.
All right, reaction to the change at National Security Advisor from McMaster to Bolton. Listen.
John Bolton's the right guy at the right time with a worldview that I think will reinforce the president's instincts to go after our enemies and to be a better ally.
He has a history of being a warmonger. He's very trigger happy.
He believes in the military option as a last resort.
The other thing is his management style. People who worked with him have said he's a kiss up and kick down kind of guy. He's a yes man to the president, but he treats people below him very badly.
I mean, all of this commentary today was really something. And many channels, as I mentioned before, said this talking head is now National Security Advisor, kind of not talking about his past as maybe a foreign policy
expert.
It's always
funny when the talking heads are accusing somebody of just being a talking head. And you know, and also even with Van Hollen there, you know, either he's a kiss-up guy or he's a warmonger. I don't know how you can really be both. But I think that at this point, you know, President Trump has at the very least proved pretty adept at changing the dynamics for with some of these foreign relationships, whether it's with China or with North Korea. And I think that, you know, give them a little latitude on that.
All right, so let's just take Bolton out of it, but it seems like they are ready for action, war on a number of fronts, whether it's not legitimate war, but you have Tillerson for Pompeo at state, obviously a different tone there. Gary Cohn leaving, Kudlow coming. You have John Dowd in the legal, personal legal, and then Joe DeGenova, we think, but there may be some back and forth about that. And it seems like the White House is getting ready to take on forward-leaning.
I think especially with regard to foreign policy, and you can't just take Bolton out of the equation when you put him with Pompeo, that it is going to be more confrontational, especially regarding Iran and North Korea. I'm not sure that sit-down with Kim Jong-un is going to happen, especially with these latest appointments by the president.
We will see. Next up, the Friday Lightning Round.